do I start? Okay, so I'll take you back to when I first met Patrick. It was back in high school. No, we're not high school sweethearts. We did not date in high school. He apparently had a crush on me. To further explain, I was very shy. I wasn't the most popular person in high school. I kept to myself a lot. And so I did not even notice that anyone liked me, let alone Patrick liked me. I appeared in a lot of my classes, coincidentally enough, but I didn't realize that. And then fast forward to years later, I was almost done with college. He had finished college and we started dating. He messaged me on Facebook. He wanted to take me out for ice cream. Yeah, ice cream at night. Yeah, okay, really. We ended up going to a bar. But we started dating, and that was almost 8 years ago. And then fast forward about, sorry, fix the camera there. About 7 years into us dating, he proposed to me. And we actually got engaged in San Francisco on the Hornblower. And somehow he invited my entire family without me even noticing onto the cruise ship. Now the Hornblower is, I guess you would call it a cruise ship. I don't know. It takes you around San Francisco. It's like 2 hours. You get food, everything. And let me tell you, my family's large and no one likes getting on a boat, cruise ship, nothing. And so somehow he convinced them to get on, and he actually didn't even tell them what he was doing. I think the only people that really knew were maybe my parents, but even they didn't know that that was really happening. He had asked him like a year before that if he could marry me, but they didn't know it was actually happening. So no one really knew. He just said it was a belated birthday celebration, even though we got engaged June of 2018 and my birthday's in December. That's okay. So he got everybody on the cruise ship and he surprised me and we got engaged. And I can actually put in some footage of that, some pictures, footage. And if you want a story time on that, I can do a whole separate video on just that. So then we got engaged. And fast forward a little bit. So normally what I thought was going to happen was we would take about 2 or 3 months of just being engaged and being happy about that. But if you know anything about Patrick and I, yes, we're very slow to do anything. But the minute we do something, like, it goes quick. So it's no shock that literally the next month, July of 2018, we started planning our wedding. Now, to insert some info about that, I do not like weddings. I do not want a wedding. I enjoy going to other people's weddings, but I didn't want a wedding for myself. Not that I have anything against weddings. I think they're great, but I just didn't want the drama. I didn't want the hoopla. I didn't want all of that. So, but if you know my husband, he loves entertaining. He loves parties. He loves entertaining. Entertaining is like his favorite thing. And so I had to meet him in the middle. We had to do something. So we decided on a small wedding. And I figured if I was going to do a wedding, it had to be something like different and spectacular and like just something different, not your ordinary normal wedding. So we decided to have our wedding in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. And that's crazy because it's in a whole nother country. I could probably do a whole nother wedding video on how we even planned that because it was a lot. Thankfully, I had my mother-in-law that pretty much planned the whole thing. She literally saved me. And then the heart attack happened April 18th, 2018. it was a lot. When it happened, we didn't know what was happening. Little backstory on my husband. He is 31 years old. He is not overweight. He has no other heart condition or any illness or anything that would contribute to him having a heart attack. He had absolutely nothing. His blood work is pretty normal, not too far off. He has very low blood pressure. Nothing that could make you think this man is gonna have a heart attack. Like you would never think. And honestly, a lot of times the stuff that happens, it happens for no reason. It just kind of spontaneously happens. Sometimes there's other factors involved, and a lot of times there is, but in his case, unfortunately, there just wasn't. So when this happened, it actually happened April 17th, 2018, the day before. He had gone to the gym like he would normally do. He had gone to the gym, he was on a treadmill, then he went on the elliptical. I think he lifted a few weights, nothing too heavy. And then he started feeling this pressure in his chest. This like weird kind of pressure that you would think is probably bad if you're working out, but all he thought was, you know, I'm just being lazy. Like nothing's wrong with me. I'm fine. Like I'm tired, or I'm being lazy. So he continued trying to push himself to work out. And then he realized that, okay, this is getting worse. Like I need to stop. So he came home, and the gym is actually only, 5 minutes down the road. So he came home and he was complaining about this problem like in his chest. And the way he described it, it sounded like heartburn. And so I gave him an antacid. I thought it was weird because he never gets heartburn. So I didn't think much of it. And then I think half an hour went by and it just got worse. And so he decided, okay, I'm gonna take a shower. Maybe that will help. I don't know why, but he thought it would help. And so he took a shower, and the hot water made it worse, like way worse. And then he took a cold shower, and it's the only thing that stopped the pain. So he'd take a cold shower and the pain would stop. And then he'd get out of the shower, and about a minute or so later, the pain would come back, but with a vengeance. Like it was worse. It was just this weird pain. He didn't have pain in his shoulder. He didn't have it shooting up his neck, down his arm. He didn't have any of that. He wasn't nauseous. He just had this weird pain kind of in his chest, in the center of his chest. And then when it got really bad, it felt like chains being wrapped around. It didn't feel like an elephant. Like people often describe heart attacks as they felt like an elephant was on their chest. Like he didn't feel like an elephant was on his chest, but it was just this pressure. But what was really bad was the chains around his chest. And so at that point, we were probably, from the time he got home, we were probably about an hour into him being home. And that's when I realized, after he kept getting in and out of the shower, like in and out, I said, no, we need to go to the hospital. Just throw your clothing on. Let's go. It's probably nothing, but we need to go. He really didn't want to go. And this is the part that is really hard, like really hard, because I know eventually he would have taken himself to the hospital. I know he would have. But how long would it have been? How long would have he sat with that? Because his comment was he wasn't feeling that great, and he wanted to take some NyQuil and go to sleep. Yeah. And this is coming from someone who has never in their life been sick, never had a surgery, never been sick, he's never had to take medication. And so for me, that was hard to realize. At the time, I didn't think anything of it. But after finding out that this is what was happening, I had nightmares back to that. In fact, I had nightmares. I woke up with nightmares of the shower because I did not know he was having a heart attack. He did not know he was having a heart attack. And so looking back on that, I was like, oh my gosh, what if he would have taken the NyQuil and gone to bed? What if I didn't urge him to go to the hospital? I know that he probably would have gone to the hospital himself, but he would have said to go, but I don't know. And I'm glad that there's no what ifs. I'm glad that it turned out differently than how it could have turned out. So anyways, going forward, we get in the car. It's really bad at this point. He is taking his hand and just slapping the dashboard. I'm driving, he's in the passenger seat, and he's just slapping the dashboard because it hurts so bad. And I don't know what it was, but normally in a situation like that, I'd probably get really nervous. I've got anxiety issues, so my anxiety would be building. I was very clear-headed that night. And because I didn't explain, this happened at night. So it probably started around like 5 p.m. He got home and it was around 6. We probably didn't get in the car until about 6:30 p.m. And so for some reason, driving the car, I was super clear-headed. Like, I had a destination in my mind and I was getting there. That also, you know, I am directionally challenged. I am not great with driving in directions. Sure, I can plug stuff into my phone, I can get there fine, but not always. So based on his insurance, I was like, okay, well, we can go to this place. It was like down the street from our house. And ironically enough, the gym he works out at is connected to that hospital. So we rush over there, and it's getting pretty late. But what we didn't realize is the part that we rushed to was more urgent care. So we thought, oh, he doesn't need to go to an ER. Like, we can take him to urgent care. Maybe that'll be a little bit better. Well, we got there too late. Urgent care was already closed. And the crazy part is, all we had to do was go back behind and drive all the way around, and we would have been at that hospital. But for some reason, I think we are destined to be at the other hospital that he actually had his surgery at and everything. So for some reason, it wasn't connecting that the hospital was like right behind. That's where we had to go. Instead, we got back in the car. His pain's like getting 10 times worse. I probably went like 80 miles, 100 miles down the freeway because I was getting a little worried, but for some reason I was still very clear-headed and just focused on getting to the hospital. Nothing else, just the fact that we needed to get there and get there fast. So we went to the other hospital. It was the same hospital that we went to the first time, but in a different city. And where we live, the cities are very, very close. It was probably 15 minutes down the road. It wasn't very far. And so we got there. We got to the emergency room. And this part that I'm about to tell you is the part that gets me every time. It's the part that makes me angry. And it's the part that I hope this never, ever, ever, ever